Let's get into our first topic now. Should wealthy pensioners be taxed more to protect younger workers from tax rises? Get your calls in for this one now. 0207 862 2222 is the number you need.
Yes, experts are calling on the government to introduce a national insurance on pensioners' income to protect young workers from higher taxes and cope with the cost of an ageing population. So at the moment, once you reach state pension age, well, you don't pay national insurance at all, even if you continue working or have other taxable income. So
this report is proposing a 2% national insurance charge on pensioners who have taxable income above the £12,750 income tax threshold. So is it fair to ask older people who are retired but receiving substantial incomes to pay income tax? Carol, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I just think it's one of the most stupid, self-defeating policies I've ever heard. This will affect 9 million pensioners, and that's 9 million people who aren't going to vote for Andy Burnham at the next election.
But it's not just about voting.
Sorry?
It's not just about getting votes.
Well, but I'm getting to that.
OK.
I've only just started. I mean, I've just started.
You're right, actually, Carol. Yes. Sometimes it can take a while.
Yes, I'm cracking on. And they're saying, you know, this is all to do with the pressures of an ageing population. No, it's not. This is to do with the pressures of 11 million people plus on welfare. This is to do with the pressures of... and it also says that this is that younger people are being punished by our pensions. No, we have 1 million younger people out of work currently. It's just not the case. And younger people pay less tax than older people. But what really hacks me off, I've paid, and people of my age and people even younger than me, we've paid national insurance for 40 or 50 years. We've contributed to the system for 40 or 50 years. And we've been smart enough, a lot of us, and canny enough to try and look after ourselves in our old age. And now they're going to try and take that from us. How dare they? This is a government that is bereft of ideas, that doesn't know what it's doing. So let's hit the pensioners again, because they're not going to hit back. They can't cut welfare. They don't want to cut welfare, but they can go after pensioners, which is disgraceful.
Is there a worry, Shakira, that this is a tax on aspiration? It will stop people from trying to succeed, do well for themselves and put money away for their old age? People will just either spend their money or change their habits, give their money to their kids early.
So I agree and also don't agree with Carol. Look, I don't think we can deny that we have an ageing population that does rely on a younger workforce to come through.
No,
so I think we have that. Hold on. We do have that. However, where we do agree is that people that are reaching pension age have been working and paying their taxes their whole life. You know, how do we even quantify what counts as a wealthy pensioner? Exactly. They might have £1 million house, but have very little income coming through. It could have, the amount of work and time that they've put into that. So I don't think that is the answer, but I also disagree that I do think it is putting a heavier load on the younger generations that are carrying.
How is it? Because younger people pay less tax anyway. We have 1 million young people out of work.
Why are you saying that young people pay less tax?
Because they tend to earn less, and so they pay less tax.
No, that doesn't apply to all young people, surely. But you're generalising, saying that young people pay less tax and pensioners pay more tax. But that's not quite the case.
Young people pay less tax than people of 40, 50 or 60 because of what they earn.
Right. OK, so should we just say that people who earn less pay less tax, regardless of whether they're young or old? Because there are some young people who make quite a lot of money and they pay a lot of tax.
I think it's interesting that they're going for pensioners. Because pensioners it's easy. It's an easy hit to go for pensioners.
Well, you say that, Carol, but you know very well that, for example, the triple lock, something we've discussed on this show many times.
I know how much it costs. I know.
No, but let me just finish. Going after pensioners has always been thought as politically a disaster of a move because pensioners vote and younger people don't vote.
Yes, well, I've just been told that doesn't matter. Voting isn't what matters, but it is what matters. It should matter to Andy Burnham because come the next election, those 9 million pensioners are not going to vote for Labour in the same way as they didn't vote for them this time round because of the cut of the fuel allowance.
Let's speak to the author of this report, Ben Ansell. He's joining us now. Ben, thank you so much for giving us your time. Now, it's fair to say, Ben, that your report includes many other suggestions of how to raise revenue for the government. We are picking on just this particular one. You've heard what our guests have been saying. What do you think? What's your comeback to Carol, who thinks that this is actually rather unfair?
I guess I think we could all do with a bit of the spirit of Dolly Parton and slow down a little bit and talk about this. So the main suggestion about pensioners in this is actually for pensioners who earn over 50,270, which is the upper earnings limit. So everybody who earns over that pays a 2% NI surcharge. And you don't get any NI entitlements, by the way, for that. So it would just be taking that same principle and applying it to all people who are still earning, still in the workforce, above 50,270. So I think that should scare people a lot less. We are talking about wealthy people here in this particular
So
case.
Ben, can we just clarify? You wouldn't be, if you're hitting over 50,000 by a combination of your state pension and a private pension, would you still think that these people need to pay national insurance on that?
In my view, I'm just telling, as best as I can, what you might get from each different type of principle, right? So it's for politicians to decide what they want to deal with. I'm just trying to do some analysis here. But in terms of earnings, you wouldn't earn a huge amount by doing it, right? About £150 million extra a year. If you applied it to private pensions as well, that would get to about £300 million. So look, this isn't going to fundamentally reshift the fiscal balance in the country already. The big problem is not about whether pensioners are paying enough tax. It's that pensioners are going to cost us, including, by the way, I'll be a pensioner fairly soon, right? Are going to cost the country a lot more, about 10% of national income extra over the next 50 years. So we have to find a way to pay for that. And we have to find a way to pay for that people can manage.
Then those pensioners who are going to cost more, you just talked about pensioners earning 50 grand or over. They're going to be looking after themselves. They're not going to be a burden on the national health. They're not going to be a burden on. They're not going to claim benefits. They're going to be able to look after themselves. But if the government takes
well, Carol, are they still going to receive the state pension, and are they still going to be receiving NHS care like the rest of us?
You talk about
because then they are.
Well, let me tell you. You talk about the state pension like it's a gift. It's not. It's something. It's an entitlement. It's something that people
I'm not talking about it like it's a gift, Carol, and
it
it doesn't say that at all in the thing. I'm saying that the 2% extra that all of us who earn over £50,000 pay you don't acquire any NI benefits from that. It's all the earnings that we do at the lower limit.
You would accept that the people you're asking to pay this have already paid national insurance for 40 or 50 years already and paid into the system.
Yes.
Yet you're going to take more off them.
I'm asking older people who are earning a lot of money to pay slightly more tax
you think 50
than they were.
grand's a lot of money in London?
Let him answer the question.
Let me put it a different way, Carol. Imagine you were a graduate and you were earning a lot of money, £100,000. You would be paying in this country at the moment a marginal tax rate of 71%. So I don't think any of us can argue. Yeah, that's the 60% rate that you pay between £100,000 and £125,000, plus the 9% repayment fee for higher education, plus that 2% NI. Right, so a lot of people who are working really hard, who are not pensioners yet, are paying very high tax rates.
Don't understand what you're talking about. You're saying that a young person earning 100 grand is paying 71% tax.
Marginal tax rate at the margin, yes.
What does that mean?
Well, that
means for every pound they earn, 71% gets taken by the government.
I'm not understanding any of that, actually.
Well, I'm not sure it can be said any more clearly than that.
They're going to be paying 71% tax.
If you're a young graduate and you earn £105,000, you pay a marginal tax rate of 71%. That's just how our tax system is currently structured. I don't think that's fair. I'd imagine most of your viewers don't think that's fair.
Okay, so
well,
this is just
I'm sorry
that
you haven't. Maybe you should write a document about taxation.
Maybe you should try. You can't tax people on benefits, so you're going to tax people who've worked hard all their lives. Why doesn't the government have a go at the benefits, at the humongous welfare bill, instead of attacking pensioners who've actually worked really hard?
Carol,
you absolutely could do that, Carol. That's a totally fine policy for people to look at. But will you save 10% of national income that way? Because that's what we're going to need to find.
Oh, I think we might save quite a lot of income.
But Carol,
absolutely. It's part of the problem.
Sorry, Ben. What we're talking about here is putting a bit more pressure on the broadest of shoulders. And if we're talking about pensioners that are earning £50,000, they are the broadest of shoulders for the pensioner world, if you like. So isn't it right that they pay a little bit more?
I think everyone should pay their share, but it does hack me off that what seems to happen in this country now is if you work and pay your taxes, you'll end up paying more taxes. If you don't work at all, you don't have to pay anything, and people who are working pay for you, and that's what's not fair in this country.
So can I say that I agree with Carol that working people in this country are paying income tax rates that are too high. Yes. That's the concern I have. But we have to find the money from somewhere. Now, Carol's right. You could do it by cutting some spending, but you can also look for other tax sources. So that's all we're talking about here. Do we think that people in the workforce earning middle-class salaries are paying too much in tax? If you think that, then you have to find the money from somewhere else.
Carol, I've got to leave it there because I want to get the callers. Ben, thank you so much for giving us your time. Really good of you to join us this morning.
No problem at all.
Ben Ansell there, who wrote the report for the IPPR think tank. Let's find out what you're saying at home. Gary is in Bournemouth. Gary, welcome to the show. What do you make of what you just heard? Would you be happy for, as Storm said, those pensioners with the broader shoulders earning over 50 grand a year, pay that 2% national insurance?
Well, let's face it. Our father's generation paid 11 shillings a month for the national insurance. Mm-hmm. And quite honestly, I paid all my life for 50 years, and I have to survive on £12,000 a year. Could any of the panel...
It wouldn't apply to you then, Gary.
Could any of the panel survive on £12,000 a year?
No.
I live in a retirement. I live in a retirement place that my charges are £3,000 a year.
No, Gary, you're
help.
Gary, you're absolutely
I get no
right.
help. I get no help.
Gary, no one's disputing that the state pension is very, very tight for a lot of people up and down the country to survive on. The one thing I should say is that wouldn't apply to people on just the state's pension. They wouldn't be asked to pay any 2% national insurance. This is for pensioners who, with other income, are making more than £50,000. Should they be contributing? So perhaps at some point we can raise that state pension.
The fact of the matter is, most people that are on that sort of salary are claiming for everything under the sun. The majority of rich people don't pay taxes.
All right. I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there just so we can squeeze in a few more people. Noreen is in Sheffield. Noreen, what are your thoughts?
Hi. Definitely not tax pensioners, no, because a lot of them fall through the cracks. They've had TV licence took off them, over 75s. My husband worked since he was 15. He's dead now, sadly. He worked as a lorry driver in the end. He was still working after pension age and paying tax. He had to even pay some back. So, no, I don't think there's a government that we've had yet that is brave enough to tax the growing number of billionaires, and that's what they want to do. Get rid of their tax havens, tax them.
So you'd rather
come down hard on them.
Tax,
we don't need them.
But this is,
Sorry?
but I suppose they consider this a sort of wealth tax. It's a tax on the wealthier pensions. It's not a tax on pensioners that are solely on state pension. It's not a tax on pensioners.
But how many people are on state pension? I've just retired.
Nearly 2 million,
I might have to go back.
OK, but it's important to say that no one who's just on the state pension will be asked to pay any tax on that. This is for pensioners who are making over £50,000.
No, I don't know anyone who's just on the state pension. I have colleagues at work. I work for Sheffield City Council, and some of them are working into their 80s because they cannot afford to retire. They have to have a second pension, which is taxed. Absolute nonsense.
Noreen, thank you. Absolute nonsense. I'll leave it at that. Irene is in London. Irene, welcome to the show. What are your thoughts?
Oh, hi. Good morning.
Hi, morning.
I'm a pensioner. I'm 84. We've worked all our lives, my husband and I. We've invested in pensions for ourselves when we get older.
Yeah.
We've got a state pension and private pensions. Yeah. I am still paying income tax on my pension. I think it's about time we got all these young people into work so that they can contribute to the country. Mm-hmm. It's just unbelievable that everybody that's invested in their old age is being taxed.
Yeah. I mean, that is part of the argument, Shakira, is that actually if we start taxing or putting additional taxes onto pensioners, then people of my age will just decide, well, what's the point in saving for a private pension because I'm just going to get taxed on it anyway. It sort of stops that that thought pattern.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I knew what the answer was, and I wish I could sit here and be like, I think we should do X, Y, Z, but I really don't think taxing pensioners is the answer. And I think we're hearing from people, on the phone here who have invested so much time and work and saved and worked so hard to accumulate the pensions that they have.
Although there is an argument to say that a lot of pensioners are asset rich, so it's difficult to tax them.
That's not income. And
I understand, but if you let me finish.
All right.
So they have accrued those assets over years. They bought houses when they were very, very cheap, and due to inflation and house inflation, those house prices have become very high, and that is what they are living on. Perhaps that's what they have to do. Perhaps it is a case of...
You say they bought houses when they were cheap. They were cheap to you now, but they weren't cheap when they bought them 50 years ago. They were expensive to them.
It was much easier
Carol,
to buy
but it was much easier. So someone working on an average salary, someone who was a postman, could afford to buy a house 50, 60 years ago. If you're a postman today, you've got no chance.
What's changed now is that people years ago, when they were going to get a mortgage, when I got a mortgage first, I knew I had to save. I knew I couldn't go out. I knew I couldn't spend. I had to save. The difference between a lot of young people now, they still want to go on holidays, they still want cars, they still want luxuries, and they don't want to save.
All right.
But Noreen was dead right. Why hasn't the government got the guts to tax Google and Amazon? Take the money off the people who have it, not have pensions.
OK. Irene, thank you. Let's quickly squeeze in Janice. Janice, we've got a minute left. What would you like to say, Janice?
Oh, my God, you've only given me a minute.
Sorry, Janice. That's all I've got.
You should know me better than that. I've got two of my favourite ladies, beautiful ladies. Look, I think there is a way around this. We can't keep doing the means testing, but I don't want my triple lock. I've got to pay my tax now. I paid it last year. I've got to pay it this year. I think that is one thing where somebody of 82 is not getting what I get. I get 250. I'm grateful for that. Mm-hmm. That person might only get 150. And I think it's wrong. I think we need to look at how we're paying pensions. And look, you're going to tax the billionaires. They're legging it. You're going to tax all those people. We've got to find another way of doing it in a better manner. And it's not bashing every pensioner.
OK. Yeah. All right, Janet, well done in under a minute. Thank you for that.
OK, don't forget later we're going to be discussing the incredible legacy of Dolly Parton.